I know the clock on the wall does not say 7, but officially it's 7:01. So, I will call this meeting to order. It is the Thursday, September 17th, regularly scheduled meeting of the Asheboro City Council, and it is in the third week of the month simply because of Labor Day and other conflicts. It is our regular monthly meeting. I would invite everyone to join me as I stand to invite you to pray in any manner that you are comfortable. And after that, we will follow up with Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. I would remind everyone before we sing our COVID best practices for social distancing, mask. We've removed most of the chairs from the room, and people are seated in the hallway with proper distance between them. So, and welcome everyone that is watching on the live stream. Our first item of business is old business. It's a withdrawn land use case. Mr. Nuttall, would you give us an update on this, please?
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that has been continued at two past city council meetings. The applicant has withdrawn this request, so no action is needed of the city council. The item is withdrawn.
Okay, thank you, sir. As everyone will remember, this case came up last month, and we continued it at the request of the applicant, and he has since withdrawn the request. Mr. Nuttall, Mr. Nuttall or Mr. Ogburn? Mr. Nuttall.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, the city of Asheboro, through the leadership of Justin Luck in the Planning and Zoning Department, as well as the Downtown Business Association and numerous partners and volunteers, successfully got the city of Asheboro through the North Carolina Main Street and Rural Planning Center's Downtown Associate Community Program earlier this summer. That success led to our designation as a North Carolina Main Street community, which is a title earned after meeting rigorous downtown development criteria, and that was the goal of our application to the Downtown Associate Community Program, was to graduate to the Main Street designation. That process also led to the creation of a new downtown nonprofit organization, Downtown Asheboro, Inc., to champion continued downtown growth and enhancement. Main Street communities are required to be led by a full-time employee to ensure that the goals and objectives for downtown economic development, historic preservation, and marketing are executed. And this evening, I'm happy to introduce you to Rebecca McGee, the recently hired executive director for DAI. Rebecca comes to Downtown Asheboro Incorporated after having served as director of Uptown Lexington Incorporated, a 501c3 similar to Downtown Asheboro, since 2014. As you'll see on the screen, during that time, she had numerous accomplishments leading that organization. They are up on the screen for you to review. But we're excited to have Rebecca here this evening and to be working with her in the years to come. So, Mayor, we'll welcome Rebecca and turn the floor over to her.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say thank y'all all for the welcome here. I have been extremely welcomed my first week and a half coming to downtown Asheboro. I'm excited for the opportunities. I keep getting asked why I left Lexington to come here, and I'm super excited to help start a program from the ground up. It's been a dream of mine for the last 3 years. I've been in Lexington for 6, so I've been kind of watching Asheboro for the last year. I knew that they were coming hopefully into the program, knowing what you had to do with the downtown community group that Justin kind of led. And so I'm really excited to be here. Y'all have some really great assets, some really great buildings, business owners, and a really great board to work with so far. So I want to say thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for believing in the Main Street program. I believe in it to a fault. It works if you do it correctly, and there are about 88 cities in North Carolina that have proven that this program works. And thank you again for having me in Asheboro. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to ask. And I would like to meet with each of you individually just to get kind of your goals and ideas for the downtown. So feel free to call me. I will have cards soon. Not quite yet. So thank you again.
Well, thank you. We are so excited to have you in Asheboro. We know of the great things, and I will tell the rest of the council, everyone in the room, that I got the nicest note from the mayor of Lexington congratulating us on our recent hire, and I think somewhat lamenting the fact that they lost you. So we are excited to have you here, and we know you'll do great things, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, did you have Chief Lineberry open that letter?
Didn't cross my mind.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? So, Ms. McGee? Well, you're off the hook tonight.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. And
Yes. My office, I am being housed in the chamber. I will make one correction on the slide earlier. If you send an email to Rebecca at downtown Asheboro, it is spelled differently. So I will not get it if you spell it the traditional way of you spelling Rebecca. So I'm in the chamber building. If you send me an email, my cell phone's on there. It's normal business for me to be contacted by my cell phone. I absolutely hate an office phone because I'm never ever answer it. I will answer it, but please call my cell phone and yeah, come visit me, and I'll be reaching out to each of you individually to set up a time to hopefully sit down and talk with you. Does that work? Okay.
thank you so much. Good to have you here tonight. Okay, this is the appointed time for the public comment period. I would invite anyone in the house that would like to address the council tonight on any items of city business or concern to come before us to the microphone one at a time, and I will call on I think there are 2 or 3 people here I know of tonight that would like to speak, so y'all just first one up.
Mayor, if I could, real briefly, just from speaking to some folks, I know there are several people here to speak on the CDBG coronavirus potential grant, and there is a public hearing for that. So if those comments are related to that CDBG grant, it would be best to hold those comments to that public hearing. Otherwise, comments would be welcome now.
Okay, does everyone understand what Mr. Nuttall just said? We will be having further down our agenda, we will be having a public hearing regarding CDBG grants. If you are here to talk about those grants, community development block grants, it would be best to hold your comments until we get to the public hearing and actually are talking about the CDBG grant program. So, if there is anyone here to speak on any issue other than that, come to the microphone. Come ahead, Mr. Zaliki.
Greetings. My name is Rashidi Zalika Everett. I'm here first to thank you for presiding over a calm city and community during the trials in which we have had over the last 6 to 9 months. I want to thank you for orchestrating the peace that has existed so far. I'm representing the Asheboro Juneteenth Education Allowance, and over the last few years, whenever I was in charge of this, the city of Asheboro have always helped me out in some way, somehow. I'm here again asking for that help for the 2021 season. The Chamber of Commerce and others, like the Lions Club, have assisted also. I don't know what type of financial condition that Asheboro has, but I would like to ask Asheboro to step on board and again help the Tourism Bureau of Asheboro by publicly announcing and promoting Juneteenth holiday this coming year. I would also like to see if you could finance this on my behalf by granting me $2,000 help do this, and I will get all the accounting records you will need to record the spending of this money. That is all I have to say. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, sir. We will pass that to the city manager and maybe one of our committees for consideration. But the public celebration that was planned in Brewer Street Park on Juneteenth, the official Juneteenth commemoration, was kind of messed up by our COVID restrictions.
True.
And it was postponed, and a month and a half later, there was a semblance of a celebration, but the name had been changed because it wasn't actually the Juneteenth. We were well represented at that event. The city was. We had police out there and our fire, and we put sprinklers out for the kids, and unfortunately, thunder and lightning, and they had to shut down, but we will try to help you promote that and possibly be able to do something as a sponsorship for you next year.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on any item other than the CBDGBC, the block grants? Okay, hearing none, then we will go on to the consent agenda. Council, you all have in your packet a consent agenda, which you've had time to review. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it's presented.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Burks. We have a motion to approve. May I have a second?
Second.
Katie says it. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Second.
Katie.
Thank you, Ms. Snuggs. We have a second from Ms. Snuggs. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you very much. Good to have you with us tonight. I'm sorry I neglected to welcome you earlier. I hope you're doing well this week. Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda has been approved. Mr. Nuttall, I believe you're back up. We have a final plat certification for Robin's Nest Phase 2, Section 1.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is a two-part request from the owner this evening. That is to certify the final plat for Phase 2, Section 1, as well as to grant an extension of time allowed between preliminary and final plat review for the remaining sections of Robin's Nest Phase 2. If you remember, the city's ordinance allows a preliminary plat approval to be valid for 1 year. We are approaching that 1-year time period, so the developer has requested additional time to move forward with construction of the remaining phases beyond the section here this evening. Real quickly, this is a relatively small section. We are looking at just over 50,000 square feet of total land area, 2 Randolph County pins. There are a total of 3 lots in this section, averaging just over 14,000 square feet in size. On the screen here, you'll see that this is actually the termination of Finchley Court. So the existing Finchley Court will be, the cul-de-sac is being built, and 3 lots will access those properties from that construction. Up on the screen are the city utilities that are in place. Those utilities have been installed in the development. I will note that one, if not two, of these potential lots do just barely touch 100-year floodplain, so there will be some floodplain permitting when homes are constructed on that property to ensure that they are not impacted by that flood elevation. But for the most part, this section has been completed. There is, and I'll point this out in the analysis, there is some final paving to do for the project, but otherwise the infrastructure is in place. This is the entirety of Phase 2 up on the screen right now. You'll see the area in yellow is the Phase 2 Section 1 area. So there's quite a few lots, 41 in fact, remaining to be constructed along with the public streets and infrastructure. Up on the screen is a plat that I have placed at your places that is requesting and ultimately will be recorded following any final necessary additions will be recorded in the public registry. Real quickly, this is in the city, served by city services. This is a conventional, traditional residential subdivision. It is not a townhouse or cluster type development. I will note in two-family dwellings as well as single-family dwellings are permitted in this current R10 district, provided the criteria are met for those two-family dwellings. There are two existing entrances to serve the development from Phase 1 of Robin's Nest. We are looking at approximately 70 feet, linear feet of new construction at Finchley Court, and then the cul-de-sac to terminate the street. There is a potential for some additional platting to occur that has access on Finchley Court, and that could go as a minor subdivision to staff and not come to council. But the remaining lots you will see again in a future meeting for final plat certification. This has gone through all city review points from the engineering department. The plat corrections have been made. Water and sewer has been installed. We will need as-built engineering to be submitted following the completion of paving and any miscellaneous items prior to the release of any guarantee that we're holding. Public Works has been checking on this project throughout its construction. From the planning standpoint, we do have a phasing plan that shows how the remaining phase will be built out, just to ensure that from an emergency service standpoint that we are covered. So that has been received and is satisfactory. We have been given a financial guarantee for the final paving for this subdivision. That came in today, so we have not had a chance to review that in its entirety, but it has been submitted, and we expect that we'll be able to move forward with accepting that or a modified version of that bond here in probably tomorrow or early next week. We have also been provided the one-year warranty by the developer to ensure that against defects for the infrastructure that they have installed. So ultimately, this Phase 2 Section 1's in decent shape and is ready for council's conditional approval. It would be our recommendation, subject to the completion of those remaining items. So I do think the developer has a representative here this evening if you have any questions, but otherwise, our recommendation is to approve.
Mr. Kivett's here. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kivett?
Looks as straightforward as you can get to me.
Okay. Mr. Kivett, do you want to come in and speak to us, or I don't think anybody has any question for you, but we're glad to see you here.
How you been doing?
Good. Always a pleasure, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. I would be glad to answer any questions. It's finally, this subdivision is finally moving, and they're almost completed with this phase. So get the asphalt down, it'll be good to go.
Questions? Thanks, sir. All right, so we need two separate motions here. I'll entertain a motion to approve the final plat certification for Robin's Nest Phase 2, Section 1.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the final plat certification for Robin's Nest Phase 2, Section 1.
We have a motion by Mr. Moffitt. Do I have a second?
Does that have to be subject to the conditions that need to be
That would be
met.
our recommendation.
Yeah. Would you accept that amendment?
Conditions as presented by Trevor Hall.
I will second.
We have a second by Mr. Bell. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you very much. Motion is approved. The extension of time, is that set?
It is typically a one-year extension.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to grant an extension allowed between preliminary and final plat review for the remaining section.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we grant the extension of time for 1 year as recommended by Trevor Nuttall, to be allowed between preliminary and final plat review for the remaining sections of the Robbins Nest Phase 2 subdivision.
I have a motion by Mr. Moffett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bell, any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you very much. Motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Kivett. We look forward to the final approval. The next 41 lots, did you say? Okay. All right, now, item 8A is the public hearing that we referred to earlier. I'll ask Mr. Nuttall to, I will open the public hearing and ask Mr. Nuttall to bring us up to speed on that.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the scheduled time for a public hearing to invite feedback on housing, community, and economic development needs, specifically in reference to a possible application for funding under a recently announced CDBG coronavirus program by the Department of Commerce. Just for some orientation on this program, the state CDBG coronavirus program is designed to help units of local government respond to and recover from health and economic impacts of COVID-19. The program will assist non-entitlement areas across the state, which includes Asheboro. We are a non-entitlement jurisdiction, by supporting public service, public facilities, and special economic development activities. The Department of Commerce will award CDBG coronavirus funds on a first-come, first-served basis with a focus on local needs identified by the community in collaboration with state and local health officials. Now, this is very noteworthy because typically the CDBG program has a set deadline, but in this case, to get those funds out in the communities quicker, it is a first-come, first-served basis, so there is time is of the essence in this application period. Initially, the state is anticipating providing $28.5 million in funds that it receives from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to support COVID-19 response in North Carolina. This is pretty important, and it's directly from the application that we've reviewed for the funding. The projects that you apply for and a local government must be the applicant on the request for funding, but those projects must incorporate at least one of the following as an area of focus. Support families and communities through telehealth support and other public services, to protect the most vulnerable and high-risk populations, to assist small businesses with economic recovery, to address testing, tracing, and tracking trends. Additionally, the state has established the following funding priorities. There is a public service category, which would include subsistence payments to prevent evictions and utility disconnections, as well as food distribution, testing and diagnosis, and employment training for healthcare workers on the front lines. So those are examples of public service type of programs. There's also a public facilities category, which would enhance internet access to support increased connectivity to schools, jobs, and healthcare. It also includes building rehabilitation or improvements to support activities such as repurposing buildings into patient treatment centers. So you can see the focus really is action that you are taking in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The last category is to provide financial assistance to businesses with 100 or fewer employees including micro enterprises with 5 or fewer employees, to support businesses that manufacture medical supplies or to help small businesses impacted by COVID-19 create and retain jobs. So under the CDBG program, this is the first of what will be 2 public hearings related to this item. During this initial hearing, it's important that we outline what we anticipate the process and schedule to be. And again, due to the first come, first served nature of this program, we do anticipate holding a second public hearing at the October 8th. I believe that's the right date. I meant to check that, but the City Council's regular October meeting, where details of any application will be available. So between now and then, any input that we receive, either at tonight's public hearing or through correspondence in the coming weeks, will be considered as we identify and contact organizations that may be able to assist with any implementation of this funding. And again, it is not, we are not guaranteed to get any funding at all. The role of citizens, as well as program requirements under the CDBG program. Well, this is an important step to allow the public to participate and provide feedback on housing, community, and economic development needs in the lens of the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition to receiving comments here this evening, written and oral comments will also be receivable by the Community Development Division, which I oversee here at City Hall. And it's important to point out, while this is a specialized program, the typical CDBG program requirements still apply. So requirements pertaining to equal opportunity and fair housing, Americans with Disability Act, there's monitoring and significant reporting that goes into these federal programs. All that is applicable should the city receive funding. And it's important for everybody to know that there is quite a bit of reporting and compliance monitoring that goes on with these programs. I'll lastly point out that the full program requirements can be obtained from the application, which is either available through the city or through the Department of Commerce. So with that said, Mayor, now is the allotted time for public comments related to the CDBG grant.
Okay. I know we have 2 or 3 people here to speak tonight. So first up, sir.
Yes, my name is Jerry Price.
Walk right up here to the microphone, introduce yourself.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jerry Price, and I have a nonprofit that just started recently, so it's a startup. I am interested, of course, of securing funding, so my main reason for being here. But as far as this program is very interesting, I have heard of it, but I'd like to take a little time just to review it, get the application, and be able to make sure I understand everything that's in it.
What's the nature of your nonprofit?
Housing, veterans, food, shelter, education.
Have a name?
Holistic Health Recovery.
Holistic
Health and Recovery, yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you have anything specific you want to ask us for tonight?
I don't.
Maybe outside of what.
Yeah, but this is outside of that. I don't know if you guys do anything, like if someone's in my position, like $1,000 that you would be able to, whether it's a gift or however you want to call it. Do you do anything like that at all? The reason I'm asking is because I have some things I really need to do for this, and I just don't have the cash to do it right now, so.
We do have certain areas of sponsorship and assistance. What I would suggest is your best bet is to go to the city manager, make an appointment with the city manager, sit down with him, and tell him what ideas you have,
okay.
what assistance you might need,
Okay. Right.
and what you have in mind in that regard. In the meantime, you can research this
Yeah, I would definitely do that.
block grant program and get with our community development office. You can, as you noticed, you can submit public comments in writing.
Yeah, and I would be glad to do that as well.
And go by and see Mr. Nuttall. His office is downstairs on the first floor where you came in.
Okay, I sure
And
will.
he can answer your questions and get you up to speed on this CDBG
Okay.
opportunity.
I appreciate it. Thank you for hearing me, too.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you. Yep.
Next. Mr. Blige? Good evening, sir.
Everyone. Good evening. I don't want to take up too much of your time. My purpose for being here is to ask the city of Asheboro to consider building a multi-purpose facility on the east side for the east side community for youth, adult, and community services. A few of the suggested sites. One is already owned by the city of Asheboro. It's owned by the Department of Parks and Recreation. It's the grass area in the Brewer Street Park. Right now, that property is probably used 6 or 7 times a year during the summer for different activities. If there was a multi-purpose facility there, it could be used year-round. I think we're all in agreement that there's no other options available that's reasonable in the community. Another area would be Brewer Street lot behind the Central Classroom building, or the corner of Loach and Presnell, the southwest corner. Some of the programs we could possibly have there is business incubator programs to assist people in starting businesses, providing funding for a community survey to identify the needs of the East Side area. Now, some of the services and organizations that I know that we could have there, one would be adult education courses with Randolph Community College. Our organization has recently entered into a deal with Randolph Community College with regard to providing adult education courses, and the location just happens to be outside of Asheboro area. But the location was recently approved, and so we're getting ready to draft a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement for the facility to be used for those purposes. We also do our programs in the school system, so we've been talking with the superintendent about expanding our job shadow program to include all of the students in the junior and the senior level who aspire to be teachers, and have them participate in providing tutoring to the kids in the east side area year-round, with the school system providing a bus to take these students from the high school area to the location, if possible, because over the years, the lowest performing school grade averages are the kids affected in this area. They are presently cut off from recreational facilities at present, and then any recreational facilities that they might be able to go to is too far away for them to be able to get, and there's no transportation available. We also need to address the economic inequity in the area as well. So we've been in talks with True Lion Federal Credit Union to provide workshops for financial literacy, credit, importance of credit, and present their services. At present, there are quite a few homeowners on the east side that own their homes outright. And I've taken some of them to some of the banks in this community and applied for an equity loan for probably 25% of the value of the home. And they've been turned down because their credit report reflects that they may be 15 or 10, 15, 20 points under the acceptable credit average in order to issue a mortgage. Now, it's not like they're asking for anything other than what belongs to them already. So therefore, what it comes down to is they're really sitting on dead presidents because no, the financial community won't work with them. And I think that something should be done about that. But on the other hand, too, they need help in understanding the importance of credit and financial literacy. And so these are some of the things that this multi-purpose center would be able to accomplish. I hope the city will take this into consideration, and I thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
extensive list.
Well, I'm trying to touch
I read every one
on,
of them now.
I'm trying to touch on the problems that presently exist in the community, sir.
Well, I'm glad that you're getting some, positive, feedback from, Reliant, you know, the difference in a bank and a credit union. I think you've determined, that in your initial dealings with them. So, we will take your comments and we will work with you best we can, any way possible.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Have a good evening,
Thanks
everyone.
for being here tonight. Appreciate your work with the kids in the schools too. Is there anyone else in the audience tonight that would like to address the council?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Jordan Gallimore from the Salvation Army in Asheboro. I just come to touch base on a few things that are COVID related and the need and how much it's grown and since COVID started. You know, we're taking about 15 to 20 calls a day requesting assistance and help, which is double the amount that we normally get on a normal basis. The main issue that we have is that people are like 5 and 6 and 7 months behind. It's not just like 1 month anymore because I guess bills have been able to be put off. So now I guess there's a larger financial need than usual. And most of the time the Salvation Army, or under normal circumstances, I should say, would pay a portion of their bill to keep them responsible. We assist with utilities and rent, mortgage. We have an walk-in food pantry that people can visit daily. And we also do groceries, like for a household once per month. So we normally pay a portion of their bill to keep them responsible and, you know, for them to have to try as well. But we have been starting to cover the whole bill for 1 month. You know, any one of those bills can range between $500 and $800. So we could easily help and assist up to $4,000 a week. Just for June, July, and August, we've served 649 people with assistance phone calls and walk-ins. We successfully helped 9 families with their electricity bill. We've had 300 volunteer hours, and we've assisted 4 families with emergency housing, which would be like if they needed to stay in a hotel. And we've assisted 19 families to pay their rent, and the number of people served with food, including people and families who come in daily for products, is 1,470. So, yeah, I just think the grant would be very important to help those in greatest need in our community and to help the people who are in the most vulnerable time, and now I think is one more than ever. So.
Questions? Well, Ms. Gallimore, it sounds like you're tailor-made for this. Or the grant is tailor-made for the work you do.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm sure that moving forward, we can make some application and maybe get you some assistance.
Perfect.
Which you can partner with the city to get that service out there.
Absolutely.
We were very afraid going into the utility abatement program that people would let it multiply until to the point where when they did get back to work, they couldn't afford
To catch it up.
It's just a catch-22.
Right, right, and I understand that on your behalf.
That's the waiting to happen.
Yes, yeah.
You don't have the money to pay, and you put it off, and you get to put it off, and put it off, and put it off, and pretty
Right.
soon the day comes when you can't put it off.
Right, and it's just an unprecedented time. I think we just don't know, you know, I think it's just the unknown. I mean, you try to do the right thing, and then it's like, I think we're all just kind of going in it, doing the best we can. I mean, for sure, so,
And we appreciate your work at the Salvation Army.
thank you.
Sounds like maybe there's something here that we can possibly do to help.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate y'all having me tonight.
Appreciate you being here and
Thank
speaking to us.
you, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council? No one else? Okay.
Mayor, if I can ask Trevor a question. Mayor?
Yes, go right ahead.
Is this, I understand it's limited funding through the state, but are these likely to be full grants, or are they going to consider prorated funding for some of the applications, or is it going to be all or nothing? Or is you
Well,
have a-
two points, one of which I failed to mention. The maximum amount that can be requested is $900,000 for, through this program. And if you think about it, with $28 million roughly, we have 28 jurisdictions apply for the maximum, that's all the program's gonna fund. So I think you would be much more competitive to ask for less than, identify what you need and ask for that amount instead of trying to go after the full amount. But I think there is some, I believe there's some flexibility in how this may take form. It's possible that the city could identify several subrecipients and work with each of one of them individually. I think from an administrative standpoint and probably from a legal standpoint, that may be challenging to manage the various subrecipients. As we've talked about it internally, it seems to us that the perfect scenario would be to identify a single subrecipient to work with, who could then distribute those funds in accordance with the program. So the application has not been written, and that type of feedback is important for us to hear in terms of what makes the most sense. Certainly there's probably 24 organizations that could benefit from this funding in one form or fashion, but I don't think it would be ideal for the city to try to manage 24 type of subrecipients. So as we continue to research the program, I think what's occurring to us is the likelihood that maybe one or two subrecipients who then can assist with getting that money out into the community is probably preferable.
So,
Thank you.
That sounds like a pretty reasonable approach, because my experience in this area is there's probably a great overlap in the applicant, the recipient of the benefit, and if a general clearinghouse, so to speak, can be established, I don't know which agency off the top of my head.
Sure.
Like I said, there's at least 3 or 4 leading ones for sure. Sure. That's probably a good way to look at that.
would the funds be distributed to the city, Trevor, and then the city would parcel the funds out to the applicants? How is that the way that works?
That is, yes, the city would receive the funding and then appropriate that money out based on agreements that we have with those subrecipients.
And the recipient would be the agency.
That's correct. The nonprofit, in this case, a nonprofit.
Being the applicant to that agency.
That's right. The folks that we would anticipate working with as subrecipients would be those nonprofit organizations who then work with clients that they serve to provide that assistance.
Because I think it's woefully evident, we don't have the resources to process it individually.
It would be incredibly challenging, and we think there are better organizations out there suited for that. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I have a question, Trevor.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not gonna stand up and talk, I was just clarifying, because he and I talked about this, that's why I was not gonna stand up and ask any questions. But if you had a business and the people who worked at your business lost their job in the business due to their income, they could apply, the people who lost their jobs due to the business.
Well, the city would have to identify which arena of that grant that we would be requesting funding. And there is some discussion of job retention employee retention. I believe it's related to perhaps a medical, a business that has been serving, providing medical type of manufacturing or services that has struggled to maintain their employees. So I do think there could be a scenario where assistance could be provided for folks who have suffered some job reduction or job loss. But again, that we would have to identify that as what we are proposing to do. And the other.
So the purpose we would apply for, I mean, it's literally that specific.
We have to identify what
It can
we
be
are.
administered by an agency.
Yes, sir. And the other, and I'm glad you asked this question, because a very important component of the CDBG program is that you are not duplicating and providing duplication of benefits that are otherwise available. So if unemployment benefits are available and haven't been exhausted, then this would not be a good program to do so.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have comments to make regarding the CDBG grant?
So, under that last comment that you shared with us, or tidbit, so things like specific bill catch-up, just for a rent, a mortgage, a utility, water, sewer, but because unemployment, for instance, is already there.
Right.
Or perhaps even a medicine or a medical thing that's not covered by what other program we're in.
Correct. That's right. A very important, should we get funding, a very important component of this, whether it's the city administering this or working with a partner agency, will be the screening of those beneficiaries to make sure that there is not other assistance otherwise available to them or that they have received, so they're not essentially double dipping out of those.
Childcare when they already have a voucher or something to that.
Exactly.
Right.
Sir.
Job retention, if you had payroll protection.
Correct.
Plans.
So it can get very complicated, which as the more we thought about it, the sophistication of a partner agency is going to be pretty important to be able to manage it.
I have another question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
In reference to, like, if you had a building set up and you wanted to, administer the CBD testing,
Yes.
Would you be able, but you have to be legally qualified to, do the testing and bring the people in qualified to do it, but you have to have a building and then, like they were saying, the tracking and the testing. If you did that, could you use that money to set up an area to provide testing? I know there are areas in Asheboro.
Sure.
Like Premier Medical and several other places, but there's not really one available to a lot of people over in the Eastside community. And I was suggesting that College, since they have that building there, just suggesting, I'm not, but I was just asking that question.
Yes, ma'am. I do believe that if there was a proposal to use dollars to equip an existing building for the purpose of COVID testing and tracing purposes, I do think that would be an eligible service under the program.
Because like you said, a lot of people have problems getting,
Sure.
for whatever reason.
But as you say, the details of who then comes in to provide the services,
Qualified.
ensuring that, right, the qualifications, ensuring that those services are provided. Because again, this is a community development block grant. It is intended to serve low to moderate income individuals. We would have to make sure that it is an area, as you say, that would meet an underserved or unserved population with that testing. But I do believe that would be, the potential is there for that type of.
I would add to that, and of course, I know you're talking about something much more permanent, but hopefully temporary. In nature, the county is doing those remote locations in underserved areas now. I mean, I've provided some area for a couple of those. But it's random. I mean, they come once and.
Right.
That's about it. There's nothing continual about it.
Right, I think you both could propose probably, either a enhancement of those mobile opportunities or a brick and mortar type of operation for as long as the pandemic goes on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Reeves, I believe you're up. 8B, Finance Director Debbie Reeves will update the council on deferred utility payment program.
Would you like to apply for a grant?
Well, I'm sitting back there and I'm thinking about my next topic and how there's a lot of people out there that are in need, and if someone could figure out how to manage a program that would help these people, that would be pretty cool. Good evening. When the governor's executive order expired, utility customers at the city of Asheboro kind of fell into three categories. I had businesses who were past due with charges from June 2020 or earlier who had not been able to pay their utility bills or did not pay their utility bills. These accounts were past due as of July 15th. These accounts are not eligible for the governor's payment plan because his payment plan is for residential customers. The second category of customers were residential customers who had past due charges originating from invoices dated February 2020 or earlier. These accounts were past due of March 15th and would have been disconnected in March if we had run a disconnection. These accounts fall outside the scope of what is covered under the executive order for payment plans. The third category is the residential customers who had charges past due from the March 2020 invoice through the June 2020 invoice. These customers had charges, water and sewer, that were eligible for a 6-month payment plan. In the beginning of August, after the executive order expired, letters in English and Spanish were sent to all customers who had not paid their June 2020 invoice or earlier. One set of letters were sent to Category 1 and 2 customers, advising them of pending disconnection at the end of August, because I wanted to notify them individually that the period had expired and we were going to be resuming normal business practices. And these accounts were accounts that would be disconnected based on the City of Asheboro Code of Ordinance and were outside of the scope, of the executive order. There were 119 businesses representing about $57,000 in past due balances that need to be paid. There were about 165 residential accounts with $65,000 of charges due, of which 20,000 of that were charges prior to the March 2016 bill that were outside of the scope. A second set of letters were sent to Category 3 customers who had balances eligible for payment plans. 535 accounts representing charges due of $160-some-thousand. In all, about 800 customers are impacted. For perspective, we send out about 12,800 invoices each month. So while 800 customers impacted, and that is residential and commercial, impacted by the COVID-19 environment, 800 customers is still a small percentage of our total billed accounts, which I'm very thankful for. Customers that were billed in July 2020 did not get letters in this mailing since their bills had not yet come due. Additionally, while the July invoice is eligible for payment plan, it didn't appear that they were going to be the first round of customers needing payment plan assistance. So we set our focus on the people who were farther past due, had larger balances due. Aside from the 2 special mailings, information advising of payment plan option for customers to contact their office were put in customers' invoices, posted on the website, posted on Facebook, and Trevor put an article in the newspaper. Trevor also created a simple form on the website that allows customers to start the payment process. It's basically a form you click, you put in your name, address, your account number, contact information, press send, and it comes to the billing office. Then we have all the information we need to look at the account history, determine what the situation is, and calculate out a payment plan prior to calling the customer back. Then after having a discussion with the customer, we follow up with written correspondence via email or in writing if people don't have printers at home, and we request the customers to respond back to us acknowledging that they've received the documentation of the payment plan. They understand the terms, even though we've gone through it with them over the phone, giving it to them in person, in a paper form also, so they would have it as a reference and a guide for going forward. We highlighted that the plans, the payment plan payments need to be made by the 15th of the month, which is in alignment with our standard due date for all of our accounts. And that they have to pay their current bills, that their current bills are outside of the payment plan. They will need to pay those bills in order to avoid charges that would come due in accordance with the City of Asheboro ordinance, or charges or be subject for disconnection for non-payment. So there's a lot of discussion back and forth in setting up all these payment plans. As of September 16th, a review of my payment plan reports reflect that I had 122 payment plans set up. And as of September 16th, 76 of these accounts are subject to be dropped from the payment plan because they haven't even made their first payment. Yesterday, disconnection notifications were sent to 810 customers. The 76 customers that we had talked to and set up payment plans that did not pay their first payment are included in this notice. This is an opportunity for them to be reminded that their payment plan payment is due and to try to come in alignment with the payment plan or be disconnected. If the payment plan people are disconnected, the requirement for reconnection is different than what the standard requirement is for our normal practices with the Code of Ordinance. Because customers need to pay their payment plan amount. If they pay their payment plan amount, but they don't pay their current bill, they still can get reconnected, but they're going to be disconnected shortly because they're going to fall behind and be disconnected in accordance with the City of Asheboro Code of Ordinance. So there's a lot of education going on here of trying to help these customers understand what's required. Our documentation is kind of outlining, pay this by this day, pay this by this day, pay this by this day, to try to help guide them. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. Other customers who have not set up a payment plan, people outside of the 122 have already contacted us. When they get disconnected, they will, or when they get their second disconnect notice, advising them that disconnection is scheduled for the end of this month, that will be an opportunity again for them to call us in order to set up payment plans, discuss that. There is potential that this cutoff, the cutoff at this end of this month, is going to be a lot larger than usual because we have a lot of new circumstances we've run to be considered. We've run one cutoff now since moving out of the COVID environment, but that was a small cutoff, including just the customers who are not eligible for the payment plans. This cutoff is going to impact all the customers who have not paid multiple months of bills for a variety of reasons. And we're going to have to navigate through that with the customers and devise a payment plan that meets the criteria and walk them through the process. So in advance, I'm advising you guys to be aware that this may be a large cutoff. There may be a lot of customer fear or concern. We're going to do everything we can to work with the customers to help them be on track within what our power is to do. We have already contacted other public works departments to ask them to assist in managing the cutoff process because we have a meter department of 5 people. If you're cutting off a large number of people, it is very difficult to get to all of those houses, disconnect them, allow those customers time to contact the office, find out what they need to pay, and then get reconnected. So we're preparing for the worst, hoping for the best. Once a payment plan process is set, once a payment plan is set up, the process is really seamless if the customer pays their bill. The utility billing system outlines on their invoices what their total amount due is. It outlines what their current charges are, and it tells them what their payment plan amount is, and it tells them this is what you need to pay now. We have a lot of that information on there because we want the customers to understand the big picture and hopefully see that their balances on their past due balances is going down, and that they're slowly getting out from under this big
How many months is the payment plan balance divided by?
6 months.
So after a bill's $60 a month, they're behind 3 months, in other words, that's another $50 a month.
If their payment plan amount is $24 and their normal bill is $75, then they're gonna be paying $100. But they're gonna be not paying $400 or whatever that payment plan amount. We're trying to be as lenient as possible, but we are following the 6-month period because that is what's outlined. I do have some customers that are struggling, and we're going to try to handle those on a case-by-case basis depending on the situation. There's a lot of customers I have not talked to because they have not been responsive to any of the personal correspondence we've sent to them. So there's a lot of unknowns that I don't know about right now. I expect that this managing the payment plans is going to be a process over the next 7 to 8 months, because obviously customers who reached out to me last month in August when I sent the first 2 rounds of letters, they've already set up a payment plan, have already started on the payment plan. The customers who we may be impacted and cut off this month, we're going to have to start that whole process with them and do the best we can to try to keep them on track. My staff is, once these letters go out, my staff, we have contact phone numbers and emails, and we're going to try to develop a system to try to correspond with these individuals to try to let them, remind them, your payment plan payment is due. You really need to handle this, at least for the next couple months while we get them on track, and hopefully people will get on track. I really don't know exactly what's going to happen because there's a lot of people out there who are in need and a lot of bills that need to be paid. But we have, the payment plan is a 6-month payment plan. The water and sewer charges are the only charges that are eligible for the payment plan based on the governor's guidance. So garbage charges are not eligible charges.
Cut off the garbage can.
Do you have any questions?
People, there's various and sundry people that are in all kind of situations. And, you think on the one hand, golly, they got these big unemployment checks that are subsidized, many people drawing more than they really make. Then you get further into it. When we first, earlier on this year, we have people on short term, and they reinstated temporary layoff. But everybody, Raleigh's working from home, and we just now this past week had employees receive their unemployment benefit check from the first week of April. Where that money comes from, where it's supposed to go. I mean, I can't imagine sorting through legitimate, illegitimate need crisis of what these folks have, but which is our concern, but this is where we are, the rules we're given.
Well, and a lot of people, in all honesty, a lot of the people who are on my list are the same people who are on my list every month that are subject to being disconnected, and they are aware of the system.
We in the same business, I understand.
But, they've been thrown into some different circumstances. We're trying to manage the program that we drafted, the payment plan program, and we're managing it within the guidance of what was drafted. And we're just going to have to see how it goes.
My initial problem was no late fees could not be evicted, got interpreted as suspension of rent. Didn't have to pay, period, ever.
Well, and I do
was an
have,
educational process.
I do have customers who say that we should just forgive, that we should just forgive it, and it's unfair that we're asking them to pay their utility bill. Yeah,
It's challenging.
so.
Can imagine how difficult it is to not have any income for April, May, June, July, August.
Especially when they tell you they got it and they're giving it, but they ain't processing it wrong.
Well, I will update you guys accordingly as I learn more, as we navigate through this process. It is new territory to have payment plans, and in all honesty, with my first experience, I hope that this is the only payment plan experience we have, because it is a lot of work to manage it.
I can't imagine also cannot imagine how difficult this is on you and your staff. Thank you very much. I admire you for being able to deal with it. Can't tell you how many times I've been coming in the back door and somebody wandering around the parking lot out there trying to pay a bill or trying to talk to somebody, and because of COVID, we closed our office and the kiosk. So many people don't understand or cannot learn the kiosk, and
Well,
the guys have been great to run out there and help. And I noticed on the 15th, they were all the way down the hall.
We have started, the police has been very nice, and they have started to help us managing that traffic flow, because with me and my staff in the parking lot, people don't listen to us. But when you have a black and white shiny police car there, they all stay in line carefully. And, you know, for the last 2 months and this month, I mean, the line's been down there till about 6 o'clock. And so I haven't, like this month, I didn't apply late fees until the morning to give everybody one more extra day, because I knew it was an adjustment period. And it is something they need to adjust to, but we have sent correspondence to the customers in special mailings, encouraging them to pay a variety of different ways, and offering them to any direction they can, mail it in early, use our new payment portal, which is very easy once they get it set up. And the great thing about the payment portal is I see those payments immediately versus I don't have to wait for a file to come. Yes, sir.
Is it correct, my understanding is, if you pay with a credit card at the kiosk, there is no user fee. If you use the portal, there is.
The portal is a third-party provided service, and they do charge a $2.25 payment, a charge of that much. Yes, staying in line at the kiosk, we are absorbing those kiosks fees. And the traffic at the kiosk has quadrupled.
My wife finally used the kiosk, and I'm staying out there.
It is quadrupled. I will say that when you consider an hour sitting in line to use the kiosk because you come an hour before the end of the due date and paying $2.25, I guess there's an evaluation period of what is considered more important.
Shouldn't wait till the 15th.
I have talked to so many customers, and I mean, they yell at me because they have to sit in line for an hour, and I keep encouraging them month after month, please come a little earlier. Please come during this time. Please don't come that last day.
Wait till the last day.
Last minute.
And as much as my staff and I tell them, we can't change human behavior.
Debbie, does your software programs, are they set up where they can manage the payment plan, or are you having to do that manually?
The software program manages the billing of the payment plan. The software program also tells me when someone has not paid the payment plan. What has to be managed individually is the requirements to get back on the payment plan, because our payment plan is adopted that if someone doesn't pay their payment plan, they theoretically will be dropped. But if they catch back up, I can put them back on the payment plan. The software system automatically drops them from the payment plan, so I have to go through after payment's been received, reset them up. So it's a dual process. It is a great tool, and we are figuring out how to use it. It is new software, and this is the first time we're walking into this with our new software provider. So, but it is much more enhanced than our previous software was, and it's very clear on the customer's bill that it's a payment plan.
Good.
Any questions?
Thank you.
wish you the best of luck with an unpleasant task.
Well, you know, all of you guys, I can train you guys to answer the phone in the next 10 days, because in the next 10 days, I'm probably going to get, or actually in the next 5 days, I'll get a barrage of calls in which all we'll be doing is payment plans. So I'll be happy to set up a call center. We can use the council chambers and other areas. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David. Ms. Carter, you still with us? Yes. Thank you. All right, Cultural Recreation Services Director, Jonathan Sermon. Mr. Sermon's gonna update us on the phased reopening of recreational programs and facilities due to the governor's executive orders.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Just a quick update. I provided, Trevor, you got it? Trevor. All right, how do you work this thing then? Because I made a slide for y'all so that you can see, so that it's only one. All I did was one. Kept it simple. But I thought you'd be more interested to see our progress from the original stay-at-home order through the current phase 2.5 than just hear me spill a bunch of facts and stuff to you. So I'm just going to quickly go down where we're at. You can see where we came from. We were pretty much closed down as closed can get at the beginning. But where we are now, the recreation office on Sunset, we're still there to help people. We're just restricted access. We ask you to come to the door, call or knock first. We'll help you if we can. If not, as long as you're masked up and use a little hand sanitizer, we'll let you in the building and do anything you need. The golf course, we've taken some safety precautions. It's been open the whole time because it is considered exercise, so the governor left that open. But we have made some safety changes as far as the lounge is closed. Carts are limited to one person unless you're a family unit. There's no bunker rakes. We just ask you to brush it over with your feet. Just trying to cut down on that contact. Our athletic fields, they were closed originally. Now we are allowing teams and moms and dads, sons and daughters to go back out and practice a little bit on the baseball fields. Farmers market's been open all along because that's an essential service, of course, because it does have food and produce. The lakes, Reese is open full bore. The limitation is at Lucas, and that's just for the boat rentals. Right now, we're not renting any boats through at least phase 2.5. And that's more of a safety issue with, we have to issue every boat that goes out life jackets, oars, and that type of thing. And just to make sure that it's sanitized and sits for the amount of time that you need, it's just not, it's not conducive to good management right now. So that's still reduced, but you can still go out and fish, boat, if you have your own boat, all that's still there. Parks were always open, they still are. The things that have reopened are the playgrounds. The governor reopened them on the 4th of September, and that's when we reopened ours. They are being sanitized once a week. It's not a requirement, but we are fogging them with a peroxide-based solution just as an extra precaution for the citizens. Bicentennial, because of the mass gathering limit, most events at Bicentennial are way over 50 people, so Bicentennial is not being rented at this time. The shelters have reopened as long as it's 50 people or less. All of our shelters except Memorial are rated for less than 50. The big one, we're just telling people you have to leave your event at 50 people or less. The Recreation Center opened this past Monday. Of course, it's 30% capacity, but we're open. That's the swimming pool, exercise room, and the gym.
What is that capacity, Jonathan?
Well, we are actually doing, it's up to 30%. We are currently doing less than 30%. See, the gym throws it way out of whack. Because the gym is rated for so many people,
Right.
your 30% is higher than what we actually feel like is safe as far as social distancing. So what we're actually doing, because we have two entrances, one on North Street, one on Fayetteville Street, each level of the facility is 25 people. And then if you're there for the gym, we ask you to enter on North Street. If you're there for the pool or exercise, we ask you to enter from Fayetteville Street. And so far, that's worked good. Of course, it's only been since Monday, but it's working. Skate park is reopened. The skate park, because we're an indoor-outdoor facility, fell under the skating rink restriction. For whatever reason it did. But that is back open now. The Sunset Theater, because it is a live entertainment venue, of course, is still closed, like any other movie theater or playhouse. Swimming pools, we reopened them when we were able to in phase 2 to limited registration stuff only. It has never been open to the public just to come. You do have to register for the classes. Even if they were free classes, we just asked that you registered ahead of time. And then the tennis center's been open all along. But that's where we're at. We're hoping that when we get to October the 2nd, we can open a little bit further if the governor sees fit. He was on today and said that the numbers are looking positive, which is good. So hopefully we can continue in that process. Any questions?
Question? Mr. Sherman, I wanted to let the council know we had a first recently. Had a funeral at Bicentennial Park. The family lost their mother, and people we knew, one of the family members actually works for the city, and they had no church or funeral home that was willing to have their service, so they had their service at Bicentennial Park. The casket and the family were on the stage, and the attendees were all spread out in the park. And they said it went really well. I wanted to compliment you on allowing that to happen.
Well, you're correct. It was a first. And all of our parks, let me just mention, Bicentennial is closed to rentals. We're not promoting events that could exceed the limit. But all of our parks are open as general open space as the governor allows. So the funeral course is an exempted item. They kept their social distance, and like you said, it was a first. But they were very grateful.
Very pleased.
Yes, yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Hammer Park down on Glenwood.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually had a lady call me that lives on Maple Avenue. She butts right up against the property, and we just hadn't got over there yet. She called me yesterday. So we are taking a look at that. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am, I agree with you. Yep, we are looking into that. Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Mr. Leonard. You have an annexation petition to handle.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This portion of property, this is for a portion of property that it contains 2.88 acres owned by Kenneth and Bridget Gallimore. You have in your packets a resolution prepared by the city attorney that directs the city clerk to take the required actions, and staff recommends adoption of this resolution by reference.
Thanks, sir. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve this request by resolution.
Mayor, I move we adopt the resolution directing the city clerk to investigate the petition by reference.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Redding? Thank you. Sorry. Second, Ms. Redding. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. And the second part?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In anticipation of your action, the city clerk has prepared a certification of sufficiency of the petition, and in light of the certification, you have in front of you a resolution prepared by the city attorney setting the public hearing date for the October city council meeting, October 8th.
Correct.
And on the question of the requested annexation, staff recommends adoption by reference.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion to adopt by resolution, adopt the resolution by reference, I'm sorry.
Mayor, I move we adopt the resolution setting the date for the public hearing for the annexation by reference.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Swears. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. All right, and Mr. Leonard, item 10, you have a bid summary and request to award apparent lowest bid to the roof work at the Asheboro Police Department North District Station.
Yes, sir. Bids were advertised and received on August 11th, 2020 at 2 p.m. A total of 3 bids were received from Burrs, Inc., GMG, Inc., and McRae Roofing, Inc. McRae Roofing, Inc. was the lowest responsive bidder with a low bid of $79,920. Staff recommends approval of the low bid submitted, for the replacement of the Asheboro PD North District Station.
Those bids weren't too far apart. Any questions? We have a recommendation to adopt this low bid. May I have a motion to that effect?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the recommendation for the low bid of McRae Roofing.
Have a motion by Mr. Moffett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Swears. Discussion? I will say it's nice to finally get started on this project. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. Motion carries. And item B, a bid summary request to award apparent low bid to HVAC at City Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bids were advertised and received on October the 25th, 2020 at 2 p.m. A total of 3 bids were received from Charlie's Tin Shop, Inc., Mandolin HVAC Plumbing and Electrical, and Superior Mechanical, Inc. Charlie's Tin Shop, Inc. was the lowest responsive bidder with a low bid of $104,965, and staff recommends approval of the low bid submitted.
Now, in light of my last comment, I would say, now, that's a spread.
Yes, yes, sir.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the bid of the only particularly interested bidder, Charlie's Tin Shop. Is the apparent low bidder.
Have a motion by Mr. Moffett. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Redding. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. Motion carries. And item 10C is consideration of proposed change orders for the sports place.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. After grading had began, it was determined throughout the course that multiple additions to the contract were necessary. These additions are included in change order number 1 and are as follows. I believe you have a packet, or it was in your packet that shows that. The addition to the grading contract is the addition of 15-inch RCP and flared-in sections in the lower driveway. This is 44 linear feet of RCP and a reinforced concrete pipe and 2 flared-in sections for the addition of $4,000. There'll also be a change in the wall color from the standard gray to the mocha. This was purely aesthetic and added $20,000. Additional drainage for an unknown spring that was discovered and needed to be stabilized, which included significant amount of number 57 stone, trucking and fabric and pipe. That's $48,602. the installation of the volleyball court sand. The original grading only did the rough grading, and this is for the sand for the volleyball courts and the under drainage stone and fabric for an addition of $120,975. Then commercial grade 4-foot black safety fencing for the top of all the retaining walls. This includes labor and material for approximately 1,695 linear feet, and it would be the addition of $72,695.50. Then the undercut and recompact of the driveway per the Soltec from S&ME, they ran into a tire dump area. After they started proof rolling the drive. They already had everything graded, and the proof roll failed, and they started digging down and ran into a tire dump area. So that's $1,500. The installation of drainage and basins for the maintenance building, and that's $16,640, and then the temporary seating for fields 1 through 4 and for stabilization, that's $24,000. And the grading contract total just for the regular grading would be $308,412.50. The addition of water and sewer is also been put in with a proposal or proposed water lines, including meter vault, backflow preventer, and installation material, and approximately 3,000 feet of 6-inch ductile iron with all appurtenances, and approximately 900 linear feet of 3-inch PVC for irrigation, and 650 linear feet of 2-inch PVC, as well as complete services for the connections of all buildings. This was decided to be needed to prevent from us having to recut all the soil that was just moved around and everything, and then putting all the stone in and everything else. That's a total of $240,790. The other proposal is for the sewer line, including all appurtenances, which is installation of materials, and approximately 3,250 linear feet of force main and 2 manholes or wet wells for $80,000, for a total for the water and sewer being $320,790. Because there was an addition for the stabilization on the temporary seating of the fields, because we're looking at putting turf in, there was also a deduct of $83,250 for the Bermuda grass for 4 fields. He's also requesting an extension of 120 days that has been, due to the wet weather and unforeseen site conditions, site issues, and poor soil conditions. So the total addition to the contract would be $629,202.50, less the deduction of $83 for a total for an actual total of $545,952.50, and staff recommends approval of change order number 1.
Is the $83,000 reflected in a deduction in the base contract?
Yes.
So that's why
that's-
it's not reflected in these changes.
That's correct.
This is a change order. And
Yes, it would just be a
the base
deduct
contract.
from the base contract. Yes, sir.
You answered my question.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was running out of finger and toes, but it finally came to me where that item had to be.
The 545, that included the 629,202.50. That does include the water and the sewer.
And for most of this stuff, this is not really additional. This is part of the whole master plan.
Yes, it is. It is, and you can see what we've got. We're trying to get it in.
Process to saving the end.
That's correct, yes. Trying to get it in while the ground's already torn up instead of
going back and digging.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, great. I was out there a couple weeks ago, and it's impressive to see what has happened. It's really starting to take shape and look good.
It's pretty close to grade, because there's water standing all over it,
Yes.
which means it's flat.
Yep.
Which means it's not running off.
That's
which is
correct.
good in three ways.
We will be, we were hoping to stake storm sewer this week for them to start putting storm sewer in, but that's to the point where they're at, where they're gonna be doing storm sewer and, getting the moderator on.
The wall's about finished.
The wall
It's already-
at,
That's all right. I didn't wanna.
the wall right in here around the playground, it's not showing up. Right in here around the playground
All right.
is about 4 courses from the top and capped. This wall here is complete and capped, and we staked this wall, on Monday of this week.
There's a lot of wall out there,
Yes.
but it's gonna be beautiful because you stand up there at the entrance and see the whole thing.
Yes. And it's a good view also if you're standing back this way, looking back. You can see all the fields,
Brought to you
and the
by the
different
EP.
terraces.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Leonard. Good job. Appreciate it. I know you're up to your eyeballs in alligators too with that project.
Yes.
And everything else that you have to keep up with, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mayor, I guess we need to approve that, don't we?
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mayor, I move we approve the change order.
I got ahead of myself here. Yeah, we probably ought to do that. I have a motion from Mr. Bell to approve this, recommendation, change order, recommended change order by reference. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Moffett. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Now
sir.
can sit down. And thank you, Mr. Bell, for catching me on that. I was
It's been a long day, I know.
anxious to move on to,
The great state of Randolph.
item 11, EDC President Kevin Franklin. Come on in, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I stand here in the unenviable position between you and adjournment. So we'll try to be brief, but we do appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening to present our annual report. I would like to acknowledge that the mayor sits on our EDC board as a permanent, the mayor's position of Asheboro as a permanent member. So you are well represented in addition to other community members from the city of Asheboro. And I also want to express appreciation for the financial support that the city provides to the Randolph County Economic Development Corporation every year. You are behind Randolph County, the largest single supporter of Randolph County EDC, and we don't take that funding lightly, and we appreciate the support that you provide. A quick note, typically, as you know, we would be presenting this report in January or February. We decided this past year that rather than doing a January annual report based on a calendar year and then doing other reporting on our annual fiscal year, we would combine all of that, and we're going to start doing all of this based on our fiscal year reporting. So that's why this report before you really is an 18-month report rather than just a 12-month report. A few highlights. Over the past 18 months, we had 82 new jobs committed that contain an annual payroll of over $2 million coming back into Randolph County, and payroll also included about $18.5 million in commitments and new investment. I'll highlight two of those, two largest projects. First of all, here in the city of Asheboro, we saw a 90,000 square foot expansion to custom extrusion on Taylor Drive in Asheboro. Most notable, that facility was previously 16,000 square feet, and they added 90. So they had, this company was acquired several years ago by a much larger company, and they are really looking at this as their premier Southeast manufacturing facility. So we are seeing growth that's going to continue to occur at that location, and that's good news. I'll also just mention that the EDC did sell 10.5 acres of the West Randleman Business Park up in Randleman for an expansion of Ream parts distribution facility up there. They added about 110,000 square feet. Those were the two largest commitments that we had in Randolph County. We also continue to see good success with building reuse grants, having about 700, a little over 700,000 in building reuse grants secured. Those were in the cities of Asheboro, Archdale, and Thomasville, the Trinity area. We are continuing to see good inquiries. We had about 100 project inquiries, and we're able to submit on about half of those. The majority of those requests still are for buildings, and the buildings still are driving the majority of our visits. And so what we would like to see is not only are we seeing high-level number of inquiries and the ability to submit for a lot of those, but we'd also like to be able to see a higher level of conversion of request to final project win. So working in that direction. And one of the reasons that we brought Crystal on board is to work on business attraction and the product development that's required in order to get those businesses here. The statistics in this report otherwise might indicate a fairly normal year, but as we all know, this year has been anything but normal. And so we've seen a lot of challenges, specifically from the month of March and moving forward. We did see disruption and opportunities. There's a page in the report that's really dedicated to some of the companies and their opportunities that they took advantage of in terms of either enhancing the businesses that they already were doing or pivoting to keep folks employed at their facilities. Several good opportunities in the city of Asheboro, AEC Narrow Fabrics, i.e. Asheboro Elastics for us long-timers here. They saw their business really skyrocket with the manufacture of the narrow bands for masks such as N95 masks. They had more business than they could really handle. Another business is Trotter Sewing Company, formerly BJ Conso, over on Industrial Park Avenue here in Asheboro. Their contract cut and sew operation, and so they really had opportunity, and again, had more business than they really could even handle sewing PPE. And so there were some good opportunities to just enhance a few of those businesses based on their regular business model. Others that were able to pivot and manufacture PPE, I think everybody is well familiar with the long lines of cars outside Bosong Medical, Bosong Hosiery. I don't know how many individual masks that they sold, but hundreds of thousands of dollars worth, I believe. I don't have any firm numbers on that, but that was very good for some of our area businesses. It also created a bunch of additional opportunities for us as the EDC to be able to support the existing industry that we had. As you might imagine, when the governor's beginning to hint about closure of businesses unless they're essential, our phone started ringing off the hook. Are we essential? How do we qualify as essential? What do we need to do? How can we stay in business and operation? So we had a lot of opportunity to interface with our businesses based on questions that we received. We also had a lot of information that we received that we were able to push out to our businesses. We did reach out individually to each of our member companies, and so both reactive and proactive opportunities to support the existing business that we have across the county. We also saw change at the EDC over the course of this past year. We saw some restructuring and renewed focus on our core goals of economic development, business retention and expansion, business attraction, marketing, product development, and we're seeing progress in those areas. Let's see, we hired Crystal on as Business Recruitment Director. She's been with us for almost a year now. It was October the 7th? So October the 7th of last year, so almost a year under her belt. She's made a lot of progress. She's made a lot of connections and seeing positive things that are happening across Randolph County, and she's going to mention some of that here in just a moment. We also have renewed our efforts around marketing. As you might imagine, all of those trips that we had on our calendar for meeting with site selection consultants, going to trade shows, et cetera, all immediately dried up. So we had marketing dollars in our budget that were now free to do other things, and so we've hired a marketing firm out of Greensboro to help us with our messaging and with our marketing collateral. They've done some great photography for us, and so we're going to be rolling out some of that information very soon. We also had a strategic action plan approved by our board that's going to hopefully help us to see better results over the course of this year. But I'd like Crystal to come and just briefly talk about product development and business attraction and what she's here in Randolph County to do.
Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you. Good to see each one of you again. I appreciate your time, and I'll try to be quick because I know I'm in the way of bedtime for many of us. So, as Kevin said, I was hired almost a year ago to come in and recruit or attract industries into the community who are expanding or relocating, and to also grow our product. Two words that we say quite often are product and projects. So product is buildings and sites and/or sites, and projects are companies that we're working with. So without product, we have no projects. And we're very limited on product. And so one of the things that I did right off the bat when we got here is we had a joint meeting among the commissioners and mayors and city and county managers to just talk about a little bit of how we can obtain control of some property with little or no money down so that we could use those dollars for infrastructure. And so that began the wheels turning with several people. We've also been out working with landowners, identifying potential property that we know is available and that we market for our community and to projects that we submit on. The problem is we don't have control over those, and many of those do not have the infrastructure in place. So we're trying to work with those private owners, see how we can obtain control of that property and get that property to develop. We're also working with developers to see how we can build a public-private partnership so that we can move forward with some of this infrastructure, possibly have a shell building. As Kevin mentioned before, the buildings, having available buildings is what drives the majority of our products or our projects that come in. So, you know, we're focusing on how we might be able to structure that, pay for that through a public-private partnership, grants, how that may be. I've gone out for bid on shell buildings. We've also stepped back and decided the property that we do own out at West Randleman Business Park, the remaining acreage, is to maybe focus on making sure that we have the engineered drawings on that, what's available for us to build upon, and have that site ready, graded and shovel ready. So, you know, we're making progress, working with site selectors, getting their input on what companies are looking for, what's the timing, and the biggest thing is that we have to be ready. And so that's what we're trying to focus on, is get product, not just product, but readily available product. And so, and I'll be speaking more to our councils and municipalities about that in the near future. But I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Crystal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to say, on behalf of the city, we appreciate your hard work on our behalf for Randolph County and the city of Asheboro, all the municipalities. And in this environment, it's not a particularly easy job, but I know you stay at it, and I enjoy working with you as a member of the EDC board. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. And we'll, in just a minute, we're gonna, I believe that completes most of our agenda. I have two items that I'm gonna insert here before we go to the closed session motion, and it's for the benefit of the paper. So, because we're getting ready to go into a closed session, and everybody will be gone when we come back. We don't expect you to sit around and wait. Out of concern for sustaining the gatekeeper's house in perpetuity, the Asheboro Women's Club has offered to donate the house to the city, and the plan might include Cultural and Recreation Services taking that over and using it and maintaining it as another cultural and recreational asset for the city. Our staff is working on some recommendations and some more information. So at our October meeting, it will be on the agenda, and we'll learn more about that. John and I met with them last year, earlier, way back, and they're concerned about the maintenance and upkeep of the gatekeeper's house, and it is certainly, a historically significant property. And so, we'll learn more about that in October. And the second item is, there's a house, over on Cox Street, actually the Cox family home, and it is just to the left of our entrance to the Arboretum, right at the bottom of Scarborough Street, just off to the right a little bit. It's the first house that joins the property to the community garden, the David and Pauline Gerald Center City Garden. That property has been offered to the city for purchase. City has had an appraisal done, and staff is working on a formal report for our October meeting. But, so we will learn more in October, and at that point, try to decide if we want it, if it's necessary for our long-term project, and, you know, what's the best way to proceed with it. So wanted to brief you guys on those two items before we went into closed session. So, we will need to go into closed session here, so I will ask for a motion to adjourn, to move into a closed session to discuss economic development.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for the council to go into closed session in order to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the city of Asheboro, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the city in negotiations. I will present the motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 143-318.11A4 of the North Carolina General Statute.
Good. Okay. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Carter? Okay. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We will move into a closed session to discuss economic development incentives. So we ask everybody that's not directly involved to